God damn, that was a hell of an intro. Big shout out to JD from the Tassie Takeover podcast for putting that together. That's the only nice thing that we have to say about Tassie today. Welcome back, guys, to the third episode of the Hawks Hangout podcast. Corey, Happy New Year, brother. How did you go?
Oh, Happy New Year, mate. Happy New Year. Mm-hmm. New Year. New me. Say me, dog. That's like a LaMelo shout out there. Great little quote from LaMelo. Yes, unfortunately, it hasn't been the same for the Hawks. So it hasn't been the same year for them. Like we had a great 2024 in the first two games of this new year. They've had two losses, our first two losses of the new podcast, mate. So unfortunate, but we're ready to bounce back. What did you think?
I definitely agree with you there. Some very, very tough games. Some very lopsided reffing, some very lopsided playing from a few players. There's a lot of stuff that we'll get into later on when we have a look back at both games. In my opinion, I would like to say that they were probably exhausted. The boys have had a massive road trip. They played Christmas in Sydney. They had a day of travel up to Brisbane. They played in Brisbane. They had 2 days off, played down here again, back home, 2 days off. And then, we had a Cairns game as well. So they really haven't had much time off with family, in and around family. It's been a lot of travel. It's been a lot of hard work, getting it in, getting it done. Obviously, two really big road wins, one on Christmas Day, one in Brisbane after a slow start. And then obviously coming back home and having two poor games getting into that. Now, we did say at the end of last season and the start of this season, we were a bit of an underdog. And Corey, show off your hat.
Well, all I'm going to say, guys, like this, there's a positive out of these two losses, and now we can claim the underdog status. All right. So the Hawks have always been the underdogs. I don't feel too comfortable when we're on top of the table. So the reason I like to claim that underdog status is because, as the hat says, everyone loves an underdog. So I'm keeping it. All right. It's the same as the no chip talk. We are the Hawks and now the underdogs, mate. We just lost to the worst team in the comp. Like, surely we can't win the comp when you've lost to the worst team. Like, what was it? They lost 14 in a row. Like you said before, like they've had a tough run, the Hawks, lots of games in a short period of time. They would have definitely earned their beers on New Year's Eve. Even if they had a loss, they could hopefully got to relax and have a couple of beers. We're going to have a couple of beers today as well. So we'll pop it. Again, doing a little bit of tradition now. We're going to represent these great local breweries we have in the Illawarra. I've got one from 5 Barrels. It's a Navigator, one of my favorites. It's a red IPA. Beautiful drop. What about you, Sammy?
And I have got from New Brewing Company in Coniston, First Light Brewing Company, I have got their Extra Pacific Ale.
Beautiful drop. Now, obviously, those two losses, some people might say on the ladder, the Hawks could, if they drop a few more, could be free falling. Or as you said, Sammy, free frolling. But I'm just hope we can bounce back against these mighty Tassie JackJumpers on Tuesday. But let's get into this New Year's Eve review, mate. Firstly, my biggest take from the game, I was always worried about this game against the Phoenix. I thought the Phoenix match up quite well against the Hawks, and I was worried, if I'm being honest. The key to the game for me, Sammy Froling, he's had a great season. We were up 99-96 with probably around 3 minutes on the clock. We got a rebound. We were pushing up the court. He was pushing the ball up the court. They had two players on the ground. It was a 5-on-3. He decided to pull up the ball a little bit, lost control. All of a sudden, pass ahead. They got two guys down there, easy bucket. From the inbound, we turn it over again. All of a sudden, I thought we should have been up 5 or 6. We were down 1 within a 10-second period. I thought that was a huge moment in the game. What did you think, Sammy?
Yeah, I definitely agree. From that point in time, you and I just looked at each other and we were like, there goes that. That was the real game-defining moment. It was a bit difficult. We sat there and it was a back and forth game. It's the same as the Cairns game. It was a very back and forth game. There's been a lot of slow starts. And as we have mentioned in previous podcasts, the Hawks have been notorious for their fast starts. They've come out breaking. They've come out right off the bat, They've set the tone right from the start, and they haven't looked back since. Now we'll get a hold of it more in the Cairns segment, but I don't know. I feel like these starters have got their own, not an ego as of such, but they're very relaxed in the fact that a starting position in a squad should be something that you take pride in. It should be something that you work towards, and it should be something that you reward the players that are playing hard and that are playing gritty work and all the rest of it. But for someone like Wani Sparkle-Bullock, for example, he's had 2 off games these past games. He's been in that starting squad. That's the Southeast Melbourne game. Didn't have points until the 4th quarter. And the Cairns game, yes, okay, he had points in the 1st quarter, but he still finished the game with 6 points. Will Hickey spent more time on the floor than Wani did in both games, and I feel like Hickey had, personally, a better game than what Wani did. Now, Corey, our 3-point shooting in that game, we were 4 from something.
Yeah.
We hit 4 3-pointers. Now, for a team who prides themselves on their depth and for their shooting ability, with the amount of players that we have that can shoot the 3 ball, it was just nowhere to be seen that night.
I thought, that was a big key stat for me. I said I know the moment with Froling's turnover was a key moment. The key stat for me was that we only hit 4 3-pointers. The thing is, though, we got 105 points. So to only score 4 threes and still have 105 points, that's a good thing. The thing that's happened over the last couple of games is that we're letting other teams score big points. So Phoenix racked up 110 and Cairns racked up 108. And I don't think Cairns has hit over 100 in 50 years. So I just think that was that. And to me, it's like where scoring's not an issue. I think, though, if you're going to win games or win a championship, your 3-point shooting has to be
whoa.
Pretty spot on.
Corey,
What?
Are you feeling all right, man?
What?
Winning a championship.
Well, I'm not talking about the Hawks. I'm saying any team.
Oh.
If any team wants to win a championship, you got to be able to shoot that 3 ball. The game is moving in that direction. So combined for the last 2 games, the Hawks have only hit 11 threes. So 4 against Southeast Melbourne and 7 against Cairns. So I think that's a big stat. We've got some good 3-point shooters in our team. Tyler Harvey, Trey Kell, HJ Lee. They can all knock down those 3. So I think it's important that they start fixing that up, but also trying to fix up that D. They're just letting teams score way too much points. But what did you think about some of the players who play for Southeast Melbourne and their impact on the game?
Now, I know a lot of us went into that game going straight away, heckling, booing the man. It's been our thing lately where whoever we've said for Flog Watch has come out and had an absolute blinder against us. So we might have to go against
Flog Watch.
We might have to go against our own players, and our own players might step up then. But yeah, the impact that Sobey had on that team, I think he finished the game with 25, 5 and 4 or something like that. He was just incredible, like always. You can understand why Southeast Melbourne was so eager and keen to sign him for the deal that he signed on, as well as Glover and Derek Walton Jr. as well. Both boys came in. They absolutely gave their all. Angus Glover, former Illawarra Hawk and local boy.
He was great.
He had an absolute blinder.
I had him for 10 plus, but he only had 9. But he was good. He has good impact. He hit some really deep threes. He was great. I thought it was Walton Jr. I apologise. Last podcast I called him Derek White. So it's Derek Walton Jr. So he had a big game. I think he had his probably best game of the season. Funnily enough, that seems to happen. Players often leave their best games for the Hawks, but he was very good. He got that mid-range going. He was racking up assists. I thought he had a really strong game for Southeast Melbourne. But we moved on from that game, and we were hopeful that we could bounce back against the struggling Cairns Taipans. But they put their A game, and unfortunately the Hawks didn't. So let's have a look at that game, Sammy. So Cairns, again, another slow start for the Hawks. We're down 8-2 after about 5 minutes. Then we turned it on in a little spurt there, the last 5 minutes, and racked up 22 points to go in at quarter time up. And I thought, okay, well, we've had a little slump. We're going to move on and kick on. And build a lead here. We went in at half time up about 11, I believe. And I was like, oh, here we go. Come on. Then the third quarter starts.
About the first minute and a half.
In a minute and a half, we were down. And then at the end of that quarter, Cairns scored 40 points. They won the quarter 40-21. And the previous game, Cairns only scored 68 in the whole game, and to score 40 in a quarter against us, it was very disappointing. And I think a big thing in this game was I felt our starters were poor to start both halves. So our start of the first quarter and the start of the third, I think that's when we were poor. Our bench was really strong in that game. We had 51 bench points, which was really strong. I'll let you touch on a little bit more about that. What did you think?
Look, I think it goes to show the amount of work that the head office and the boys behind the scenes have done in the off season, because 51 bench points in a game, it attests to that next man up mentality that we've been talking about the past few episodes. Your player's not on, the next person comes in and they step up. You know, we had 3 players who, it kind of seems like it's always coming down to these 3 players. There was actually 4 in that Cairns game, but you had Lee come in, had 13 points by the end of the game. Darius Days had an absolute blinder of a game, like always. Hickey again stepping up and had an absolute blinder of a game. And Lockie stepping in again, having an absolute blinder of a game. Unfortunately, it wasn't called, but he hit a beautiful corner 3 there as a foul went off. But it just, as I was touching on before, Corey, it should be something that is earned. A starting position is something that should be earned. And as a coach, it's something that you should reward your players that are playing hard with. I know myself when I coach, and you know, you when you coach as well, we reward those players that have been playing hard. We reward those players that get in, get it done, get it dirty.
Well, it seems to me like it's worked with Darius Days.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll talk a little bit later when we look at our game previews for the next couple of games about what we think might be some changes that Tatum might like to make in the next couple of games. But in that Cairns game, I know I touched on a key moment in the Southeast game with Froling. I think the key moments, and I spoke about it last podcast, we all love Hickey. I think he's a great player, and you have to live with some of his poor turnovers at times because he does have them in him. But he comes up with great plays, great energy plays. I remember last year in the finals, he got us that offensive rebound against Melbourne to get us that win. So you got to live with some things, and this game, unfortunately, we had to live with some of the bad parts of it. But he had some crucial moments in that game, I believe. He had a turnover, again, trying to push the ball up before, get an easy basket. He just lost it with no pressure, lost the ball, turned, they went and scored. He had the unsportsmanlike foul, which I felt was unnecessary. He fouled a guy, he got 2, then he went and had another 2 for the unsportsmanlike. Then they got the ball back. I think we went from being up 6 to being level just in that one play. Yep. Again, obviously the turnover at the end of the game where we get a rebound off their missed 3 to try and level it. He has the ball, he just has to hold it or make an easy pass to someone, but he was worried about getting fouled. He just missed his last 2 free throws. He throws a crazy pass up court, it gets intercepted, and we all know what happens there. They end up hitting a 3 and end up winning the game. So unfortunate. I think that was a key moment, though, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Hickey bounces back from that. We're lucky that we're in a pretty good position with how well we've been playing, so hopefully they don't let it get to them too much, but hopefully they learn from it and become better in the next couple of games.
Yeah, and to touch on the end of that game, Corey, it seems the past few games in particular, starting from that Christmas Day game, besides that Brisbane game where we had that slow start and then we came out and we pummeled them, it seems our end of game management is starting to lack a little bit there. We've always had a substantial lead or some sort of comfortable lead, and the other team has always managed to make their way back into it. As I said, my team was notorious of it when I coached, and we lost our grand final because we didn't play till that final buzzer. The game is not over until the game is over.
100%.
Now, that Hai Jung Lee call, whether or not it was a call, people are debating that there was time left on the clock, that there was no time left on the clock. I believe the game should have gone to overtime. I believe that call wasn't a call. He was straight up. He ran straight into him.
My opinion on that
is... You didn't need to heavily contest the shot, though. It was 0.3 seconds left on the game.
I think if we start looking at blaming refs or blaming other things, they got to take ownership. If they're sitting in a meeting saying to each other, oh, that shouldn't have been a call, the game was over, you're not going to get anywhere there. You've got to take ownership. It was a poor pass from Hickey. We all know. We'll move on, own it, and move on. It was a poor decision by HJ Lee to step across and try to challenge a 3-quarter shot. If he hits that, well, we live with it. But the kid who we fouled is a great free throw shooter. He goes and knocks him down. Taron Armstrong was unbelievable. I think that kid's going to go to the NBA.
Yeah.
He was incredible. So was Edwards in that game. But we got to own those moments. If you don't and you're looking for other excuses, the Hawks aren't going to get any better. So hopefully they do that. But like you said, so end of game management. I said it in the Sydney game. We end up winning. So often when you win, people forget about those things. But we did make some poor decisions in that game. We just got away with it. And this time we didn't. So we really need to tighten up those moments. So the pass wasn't great, but then also when we came out, we still had 2 seconds to potentially win the game. We went for a pass over the top. We were talking about this earlier. Like, what was your thoughts on that?
They had the mismatch there. They created the mismatch that they wanted, and obviously Darius Days couldn't hold on to the ball, and we still had enough time for them to run down. They hit a crazy shot by Rob Edwards, tied game with nothing left to go, and he gets fouled by Taron Armstrong gets fouled by Hyung Lee. Perfect opportunity there. I don't understand why they weren't in the game at that point in time, but for someone like Lockie to be playing the way that he had been playing that game and to have stepped up the way he had stepped up, they created the mismatch that they wanted with Days. There was no reason why Lockie couldn't have been on the floor instead of someone else on the floor and create the mismatch with Lockie, and Lockie gets the ball. He goes up for it. Worst comes to worst, he catches the ball. Time runs out. He shoots the shot. He makes it. He doesn't make it. Oh, well, we go to overtime.
Yeah, I think in those moments, when you've got the ball with 2 seconds to go and the score's a level, if you've got the ball, the worst thing that should be happening is it's going to overtime. You should not be losing the game. So that's a key thing moving forward. You might lose the ball, but don't panic and think, oh, I've got to make up for it. Just live with it and go to overtime. They had a player fouled out. The odds were in our favour that we were probably going to win that. I think Edwards was on 4 fouls as well. So a pretty strong position. So they should have been maybe talking about those things in the timeout. If we don't score here or we fumble it, don't foul.
Yeah.
Don't foul. They're in the bonus. Just if they have to hit a 3-quarter shot and they do it, we'll say well done and we'll move on. So yeah, move it. Let's move on. It's not on our little run sheet, mate, but we do have a couple more nicknames. A couple more nicknames that I've got to go through. And I know you're excited about these two. I'm gonna shock you with one because there's one I've changed him. So
Changed him.
Yeah, there's 2 players left that we haven't given nicknames to our mighty Hawks this season. And the first one is Toddy Blanchfield. So he's a bit of a veteran. Now, Toddy's been around a long time. He's got the initials TB. So I'm going to give Toddy, and I think you like this, I'm going to give him the nickname Tom Brady. Now, Tom Brady, he's got the same initials, Tom Brady. He's played for many, many years. Toddy feels like he's been there in the league for a long, long, long time. I feel Toddy's the GOAT of 3-on-3 for Australia. Brady's the GOAT of the NFL. What number does Toddy wear? 21. What's Tom Brady?
12.
Oh, the reverse. Mate, it's all lining. Who did Tom Brady play for when he finished his career?
Tampa Bay.
Oh, what's the initials?
TB.
Oh, there we go. So we've got Todd Blanchfield. He is Tom Brady. And our final one. Now, I'm saving the best for last because this guy is my son Carter's favourite player, HJ Lee. Love the guy. Great guy off the court. So nice, especially to my son. He's given him 2 pairs of his shoes last year. He's always really nice to him at the end of games. I really appreciate how he handles fans. He's a great guy. We thought a lot of things about Lee. We could have gone the obvious choice with Bing Lee, like Brett Lee. We could have gone Bruce Lee. I thought of another one, famous Aussie car, because he's HJ Lee. I'm going to go HJ Holden, but I've made a late change.
I'm scared now.
You're
I'm scared, Corey. I'm scared. I was prepared for you to say Holden.
You should be scared because it's a bit of my son Carter, he loves Lee, and he's also his favourite TV show on Netflix is Squid Game. Now, there's a Korean theme with Squid Game, and Lee's Korean, right? So I'm going to call Lee, and what's his favourite shot?
3.
Squid Game 3. That's his nickname, Squid Game 3 for HJ Lee. So that's our nicknames done. You like it? It's not bad. Squid Game 3. Squid Game 3. He likes these ones after he hits a 3. Love you, Lee. Big shout out to you. You're a great guy.
I got to give a shout out to my mum. I think she came up with a better one than you this week.
Oh,
I got to give a shout out. I know she's going to be watching this one. Now, she's a big Todd Blanchfield fan as much as she loves a few other players of the Hawks. Now, the Todd Blanchfield one that she came up with, she called him Golden Boy. Now,
I think I've got this.
There is a famous TV show, and we all know it. It's called The Golden Girls.
Golden Girls, one of the greats.
And one of the characters in that, Corey, is Blanchy.
Blanchfield.
Blanchy.
I actually
Golden
like
Girls,
it. The Golden Boy. He's got a bit of a Golden Boy vibe too.
He does. He's
got those preppy good looks. See that? But Tom Brady has those preppy good looks as well. So, Golden Brady.
Golden Goat.
The Golden Goat.
The Golden Goat.
I love it. All right. Now, we're going to move on. So, obviously, the last couple of games, the Hawks have not had the results go their way. So, I want to bring some positivity to this episode. So, we're going to talk about, I've been a long time Hawks fan. Some might say a long suffering Hawks fan. But we've got some favourite moments that we've had as being Hawks fans. So, I want to give you mine as someone who's been around for a long time. Sammy's a lot younger than me, so he'll give you probably some more recent stuff. But my first fave moment, it's a pretty obvious one. This is the Hawks championship back in 2001. I remember vividly being at the game when they had the semi-final at the WEC and they played Adelaide. It was an Easter Monday. There wasn't actually too big of a crowd there. So we went to the game, deciding game. Adelaide played really well. They dominated. Came down to last play. They had a chance to extend their lead. They missed. Wasn't much time on the clock. I'm thinking, well, there were no chance here. Pretty similar to the Cairns game the other day. The Hawks get the ball. Sav dribbled, gave it to Damon Lowry. He jacks up a shot. He was fouled. Adelaide weren't too happy with the call. We're down 2. Lowry has to go to the line. We all know what happens. He goes to the line. The first one is bouncing around the rim, finds a way to drop. The second one does something very similar. And the third one, he goes up, bounces around the rim 3 times, pops up in the air, bang, he goes down to his knees, celebrates. We get into the grand final. We play the Townsville Crocs. We win game 1 at home. They used to do game 1 at home, so reduce the travel. And the next 2 games were in Townsville. Townsville win game 2 quite comfortably. They play the next game 3 in Townsville. The Hawks opened up the WEC and had a big screen there, so a big crowd turned up to watch it on the big screen there. Hawks got the job done. Oh, so exciting. Tears rolling down the face. The celebrations the next day, back to the WEC when the team came, all on the stage, celebrating hard. I remember Melvin Thomas had the glassiest eyes I've ever seen in my life, but they deserve to celebrate hard. It was a really great moment. I'll never forget it. So that's one of mine. My second favourite moment is a little bit more recent. The Hawks were having a really tough season, struggling to get a win. My family comes to the game. I've got 2 kids, a 16-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. And son especially is super passionate about the Hawks. And I love that. It's probably the only sport that we really all watch together as a family. And it's been great to see them have that passion. And I think there was this particular moment I'll never forget in my life was we were playing Melbourne United, who a very good team, obviously, at home. We were struggling this season to even get a win. Came down to the last few moments. The Hawks were down by 3. They get the ball to the bathroom. Tyler Harvey, he hits a 3 on the buzzer to send it to overtime, and we're jumping up and down. I look over to my son, and he's so excited. He's got tears running down his face, and I said, "Are you all right?" He goes, "I don't know why I'm crying, Dad. I don't know why I'm crying." I go, "Mate, you're crying because it means so much. Yeah, they're happy tears." And that just melted my heart. It was just a great moment. I'll never forget it. I think we did end up going on to lose that game, but I just felt like it was a moment in his life where he found the passion and love for the Hawks and saw how much it meant to him. So this is why I don't want any chip talk, because it actually means that much to me. So I don't want to put any jinxes on it. And I know how much it would mean to him if we could somehow do it just one more time. It would be lovely. What about some of your favourite moments?
God, I wish I was there now. I've heard all about it from my parents and lived the glory through them, and I've watched the replays and everything. And as you just said, like it would mean so much to the 13 fans in the Illawarra apparently that go to the games. You know, at least it doesn't look like an awkward family reunion when we go to a stadium. So, you know, I think my top favorite moment for me would definitely have to be it was the theme at the start of the episode. We've got one of his jerseys there. Corey's wearing one now. But shout out to not TB, but to LB, LaMelo, big ball of ball, hitting an insane monster triple-double in front of your home crowd. Monster 3, Sunday Detch just kicked it straight back out to him. Monster 3 sends it to overtime, end up destroying them in overtime. And, you know, I think it was actually the first ever player in NBL history to record a triple-double. So not only was he an import, he was the youngest person to ever do it.
Yeah,
and
in the 40-minute era, I think it was. Yeah.
So that was just incredible, watching that live, being there, experiencing it all, and watching someone just bring a team that honestly did not have much at that time. We had gone from a finals appearance in 2015, 2016 to just a few years of rough back-to-back, and him coming in there was a lot for the Illawarra and the amount of things that they had. We obviously had LeVar come down. They did a big baller pop-up shop. Just everything, like, you know, it put the Hawks and the NBL onto that global stage. He was the first real import that kind of brought the game to that next level. And, you know, I've just been to the States recently, and my dad wore a Hawks jersey over there, and people straight away knew exactly what jersey he was wearing. And, you know, oh, you guys must be from Australia. You know, to get that recognition straight away, it's a credit to what he did for the league and what he's continuing to do for the league, regardless of him still being in it. And my second one, it has to be a recent one. You did an old and a recent, so I've got to follow the same theme. Now, I think my recent one for me would definitely have to be watching that finals game last year, that semi-finals game in Melbourne at home. Now, we obviously had the chance to win that first game in Melbourne. Coaching decision didn't go our way. Obviously, it was, you know, a bad pass by Adnam, and he did cop a fair bit the other night about that.
He played well, though, didn't he?
Especially from me. He copped a mouthful from me, I can tell you that. But just watching that live, I had my uncles over from Canada at that time. We took them to the game. We took their partners to the game as well. And we just had a family night out. And to let it go into overtime and to win in overtime again in front of your home crowd. I think Gary Clark scored something like 40 points. We touched on it before, but Hickey had that game time rebound and went straight up for the shot. You know, it was just one of those things where I'll never forget it, and I hope that it's something that we get to see again in the future. I said hope because I'm not allowed to say the C word, and I'm not allowed to mention it. But I hope it's something that we see in the future, and we definitely have the strengths there to do it. It's just these boys have just got to really find their form. And I love what JT said in his press conference the other day. He didn't have any players in there. It was just him. It was just the media team that were in there. He did his press conference, and there was a quote, Corey, and it's something that I really enjoyed. He said he was going to go into the locker room afterwards and say to the boys, it's up to you guys. Like, are we going to finish this season the way we started it, or are we just going to go through the motions? And I feel like if we keep going down the path of what we're doing, you and I have said it to each other, these 2 losses could easily turn into 5 losses.
That happens. You see it in all sports. 1, 2, 3. It's hard to break it. So that's why I was keen for us to win that Cairns game, just to stop, because I feel like the teams who do go on to win competitions, they have the ability when they have a loss to bounce back and not make it 2, 3, 4 losses in a row. So there hasn't been many teams to be able to do that this year. There's been a lot of teams having backup losses, but yeah, I agree, mate. I think that needs to be something that we look forward to.
Yeah. And now, Corey, I've got to ask the big burning question.
What's the question?
We've been talking about favorite Hawks moments.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like I said about Gorgian, he's living in his glory days of his former championships.
Yes.
I've heard you have been living in your glory days.
I
lately.
have, mate. Now, let me just tell you, I want to bring something back to the Hawks. I think this could get us out of the funk. Now, I walked past the great Chuck Harmison on the way to the game the other day, and I said to him, mate, we need to bring back the theme song, the Hawks theme song. And Sammy's like, what the hell? We never had a theme song. I go, mate, come on, young blood. You gotta know the theme song. So I'm sure the Hawks fans out there will remember this. Run it. Fly, you Hawks, fly. Now, come on, Sammy, we're bringing that back. It's got to come back.
I feel like it's got to come back,
mate.
Now.
It has to come back. If we get a victory at home, they're going to be blasting that over the speakers at the WEC. That's going to get the crowd pumping and singing along. Bring the theme song back.
Bring it back. You know what else they should bring back? Bring Freddie back. Bring it back.
Got to bring Freddie back. Freddie.
Come on.
I love Freddie. A bit of got the crowd romping, especially in a close game. Love it. Now, what do you think with the Hawks? Everyone bags us because we never have any sponsors. What do you think? What do we get? We got a sponsor during the week.
Hey,
partnership announcement.
Big shout out to Pringles for jumping on board with us. Now, once you pop, you can't stop.
Oh, that's what she said.
It was something that the Tassie boys, which we're going to touch on in a second, they like to claim everything as their own. It's what happens when you're the forgotten cousin of Australia. You like to claim everything of your own. They like to claim that they were the ones who got us the sponsorship. They put a call out on their podcast the other week for anyone. And lo and behold, the day later, they announced that Pringles had jumped on board for game sponsorships. Now, Corey, they had it there the other night. They had courtside seats. They had this whole Pringles partnership and all the rest of it. Is it something that we can see potentially being long-term for the Hawks, or do you reckon it's just going to be short-term for the rest of this year?
Well, I hope so. It's going to be long-term. Be nice to get them on the jersey, because then I can feel like there's a picture of me on their jersey. So that's what I'm looking for. But let's fingers crossed. We want sponsors for our team, and Pringles is a pretty cool one. It's a worldwide brand, so I'd love to see that. So let's move on to everyone's favourite segment, my brother. Oh, my favourite and your favourite.
Vlog watch.
Vlog watch. Let's go. Well, now, like you said before, there's been a bit of a trend with vlog watch. Whoever we've named as the number one vlog for that team has had an absolute blinder in the game. So Noi, he came out and dropped over 20 points. We called him the biggest vlog. Sobe, but I didn't call him it. Sobe, I didn't call you it. But Sammy called you the biggest vlog for Southeast Melbourne, and you came out and dropped 25 on our head. So this is dangerous. This is very dangerous. So we're going to talk about not Southeast Melbourne. We're going to talk about Tasmania. Now, Tasmania, I'm not going to lie, like the Tassie Takeover guys, I've told them this already. Tassie are my second team in the NBL. I've got a lot of respect for them and what they've done in their three seasons. I'm a big Jack McVeigh fan. I know he's moved on to bigger and better things. I was worried about him coming back actually to Tassie this year, because I think if he came back, they would be a big worry. So we're going to look at my nominee. I think I can only think of one. I don't have many. They don't have many flogs, Tassie. Let's be honest.
No,
but there's one big flog.
Who?
Drew Mick.
Anthony
Drew Mick. I just have always thought that whoever he played for when he was at Adelaide, he was a flog there. He just has that like flog look about him. The big moment, I know Rob Lowe did knock him the other day and he went to the ground, but I swear he knocked him in the belly and he goes down, he's grabbing his face like he's an Italian soccer player, rolling around on the ground. We know you got hit, mate, but get up. You can play basketball. There's no doubt you've been in the league for a long time. Just don't need to get grubby. But one thing, mate, don't go off against the Hawks now because you've named it as a flog. But I might do a little sneaky thing here in our multi this week. That's a little tip.
Okay. All right.
What are your opinions on flog watch this week?
Look, I can't fault Tasmania as much as I would like to say some very, very nasty things about them. I just don't have it in my heart to do it. you know, as I said before, we've got 13 passionate fans that come to the game every single game.
It's growing, man. It's growing.
It's growing. We had close to a sellout the other night, and I sent a video to the boys, and I was like, "How's this for 13 fans?" And as I said before, at least it doesn't look like an ugly family reunion gone wrong. And we're not the forgotten child of Australia, so we're not having to do anything to be relevant, to show that we're still existing and all the rest of it. I feel like the Tasmanian Championship was kind of like similar to LeBron and the Disney Championship with COVID. It was given them because it was nepotistic. Now LeBron's, I felt like they just gave it to him to appease him and appease all of the players and everything else because they had to go away, and it was just all of this thing.
Wow.
I felt like for Tassie it was a bit nepotistic because, as we've said, they're the forgotten child of Australia. And they couldn't get it done in their first year. They couldn't get it done in their second year. But third time's a charm. They got it handed to them on a silver platter.
All I'm going to say, mate, is at least we're not known as the females nether regions, the map of Tasmania. Like we're at least we're not known as a. True. That's all they're famous for.
No, and so, seriously, guys, like the JackJumpers, like you've got an ant as your mascot. A child's foot could squash a mascot. Besides
the only ant that's good at basketball is Anthony Edwards, like Ant-Man.
Now,
if you saw him, how good would that be? The ultimate ant for the ants.
We did have a big joke the other day about Jimmy Buckets potentially signing for the Sydney Kings. But Javonte Turner turns out to be their import signing.
Javonte Buckets, me.
Have not seen this kid play basketball. I don't think he's played much basketball, but we'll see what happens. We've got a few games against the Kings coming up. Now, previewing against our Tassie game coming up on Tuesday night.
Yeah, big game.
Tassie are obviously playing at the moment as we're recording this. Tassie are playing at the moment. Tassie then plays against us on Tuesday.
No, we don't play the tied card for them. I'm not going to. How many games have we played in like the last whatever many days? Come on, like there's
played about 6 games in a row.
We're not going to let them go. Oh, we're tired. Poor baby ants. It's not going to happen. So that's not going to happen. Now, this is the thing for me. Big thing for this preview of this game. Now, I've been thinking a lot. Now, I know Hickey had a bit of a brain explosion the other day, but the big thing I'd be looking to make in this game is I'll be looking to have Hickey start this game. Now, the reasons why I want Hickey to start, I think he's going to be a little bit down on himself. He's going to want to like make a statement. I think get him out there straight away. Doesn't have to sit on the bench thinking about it. Get him out there and get it done. Second thing is, Wani, like you said, hasn't been great the last couple of games. So I think it'd be a bit of a statement to say, let's go, Wani. You're going to start on the bench. You're going to come on for us and give us a little bit of a spark. And the reason why I'm saying that is now Tassie have been starting their little ant, Jordan Crawford, great player, off the bench. Now, I think Wani's strength is guarding undersized guards, using his length to make it really difficult for them to score. He's quite good laterally. He's a pretty good on-ball defender. He can stay in front of those smaller guys. He can use his length to challenge shots. I think if he spins it in that way, Tatum, and says, mate, I want you to come off the bench because then when Crawford comes on, I'm chucking you on to shut him down. I think he'll take that on and he'll do a good job. I think that would be a great idea for the Hawks moving forward. I think it'll help 2 players. Hopefully Hickey get over that brain explosion, and Juan needs to try to get out of his funk a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. If for whatever reason, Hickey's obviously been referred to the game review panel. If he gets handed a match ban and that sees him out for Tassie, could you potentially say that Darius Days would start over him instead? That's another person who has been in there, been doing the hard work and getting it in and getting it done. Do you reward him by putting him back into that starting lineup?
Yeah, so potentially I think that could be an option. I don't think Hickey's going to get a game suspension. A fine would suffice, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I just don't think that's there was not much in it.
There wasn't.
I feel if he does get a game suspension, they're setting a precedent there. A lot of other guys have done worse and only caught fines. So I think, Hickey should be fine. that's my opinion on that game. I respect Tassie. I am worried about this game. I do think they are a good team, very well coached. Respect Scott Roth immensely, what he's done with this team and his defend the island attitude, the way that he people want to play for him. He's a great coach. I do think that this is going to be a very, very tough game. I think Tassie have put it down in their calendar and said, looking at this game now, the Hawks have dropped the cup. If we can get this, all of a sudden, after a slow start for us, we're on top of the league. So this is a big game for both teams. And I'm expecting it to be pretty fiery. So I'm thinking whoever wins this game can put themselves in a position to really get into that top two, which I know most teams want. You want to try and avoid those playing games if you can. Gives you a little bit of chance to rest, but also it's guaranteeing you're going to be in the final four.
Pretty much. It's going to set a precedent for the rest of the season. There's not too many games left now, with our last game being at home on the 6th of February against the Sydney Queens. Now, it's one of those games where obviously in the start of the season, we did put a number on them. I think it was 109 to 76. And I don't think we've really versed them since then. We might have had one game in Tassie, or I think we've actually got a game coming up in Tassie. Now, it's just one of those things where do you take home court advantage? Do you not take home court advantage? Do you look at potentially moving down to second? Do you play for a play-in spot? It's all things that these teams are playing for now. And, the Hawks have been that team to beat this season. They have been on the top, and whether teams have exploited their weaknesses or started learning what to do against them in certain game plays, it's one of those things where the coaching staff of the Hawks has seriously got to look at it, because it's coming down to crunch time, and to drop 2 games in a row, one against, yes, a fairly good Southeast Melbourne Phoenix team, but to lose against the bottom in the league, you're now going back in front of your home fans who are pretty deflated after 2 home game losses. Yeah, you've got another 2 games in a row where they have to be big. They've got to be big games, and I'm not saying blowouts, but it's got to be big, hard work, blue collar, the Illawarra Hawks that we know and we love. Yeah. Now, speaking of the Illawarra Hawks that we know and we love, my segment this week for Get Up and Get Out, I'm going to have to flip it on its head, mate. I have to flip it on its head. I would love to say a big get up to everyone that was involved in that bench. Hai Young Lee, Darius Days, Todd Blanchfields, Will Hickey. You had an absolute blinder, as we said.
Bench was huge.
51 bench points in that Cairns game. It was half the points almost for the entire game. It attests, as I said, to that depth that we have and that next man up mentality. All the boys need to rally around it now. They need to play how they played against that Perth game, and all of them need to rally around each other so that it is a big win, especially for Tasmania. It keeps us locked into the top position, and I think it pushes them, depending on the results, at least down to 4th or 5th. Whereas if they win, they overtake us on points percentage, as that would be 12 and 8. So it is a big game, and it's a big game to watch. But my get out is, unfortunately, Wani. Now, I love
back to back.
I love the dude to bits, but I would love to see him. I would love to see what they did with Days. I would love them to take the same mentality and bring that on to Wani. As I said, a starting position is something that you should have to fight for.
Yeah, and I feel Wani's head has dropped a little bit. And I saw the other day, Kel drove it in, kicked it out to Wani. It was wide open. Wani kicked it on, and you could hear Kel saying, shoot it. Yeah, shoot it. Wani kicked it to Harvey, hoping he'd hit it, put his hand up in the air. Harvey missed. Next time the ball went out, Tatum made the call. He pulled Wani. Wani's head dropped. It's almost like he's saying, mate, if you're open, you've got to take that shot. If you're on the court and you're open, he wants to be known as that 3-and-D guy. You can't be giving up open shots when guys are driving in the lane, kicking it out to you, you're wide open. You've got to be shooting that ball. So for me at the moment, Wani, it's a confidence thing. Let's hopefully he can shake it off, buddy.
100%. Now, our last section, and it's always a fan favorite because, Ryan Tucker, I think he's backed it a few times. I think big Joshy Higgins has backed it a few times as well. I know you haven't backed yourself by putting your own money.
I can't do it, mate. I told you, I'm the curse. So this is our multi for the Tassie game. And I do this. I don't like to put Hawks players in these multis. So I'm going to go now. I put the kiss of death on the Hawks like I do, saying that they've been incredible in the first quarter. So I'm going away from it. I'm going Tassie to win the first quarter. Oof. And again, I told you the flog watch has been a curse for us. Whoever we've said is the biggest flog's had an absolute blinder. So I'm going Anthony Drimmick to go 10 plus points. Mm-hmm. Then finally, big fan of this guy. He's just super smooth on the court. And he can nail those threes, and he has a habit of nailing plenty of them against the Hawks. So I'm going Milton Doyle, 2+3. So it's just a 3-legger. Now, I don't know what that's going to go up to because the game's not up yet because Tassie are currently playing now. So that could have injuries in that game could affect the next game. So that market's not up there yet. So I don't know what it's going to be. I'm predicting that it'll be around the $5 or $6 mark. So again, bet responsibly and good luck.
100%. Now, unfortunately, that is all we have time for. As much as we would love to sit here and, talk shit for the rest of the night, we unfortunately have a nest to defend and a big Hawks nest and some Hawks to feed. So we will see you on the flip side. We've got a little special thing coming for you guys. So keep tuned. We've also got a website up and running. So you can find us at thehawkshangout.com. That can be found anywhere itself.
Instagram.
And we've got an Instagram as well. It's up and running. We've been posting some reels, posting some end of game footage and stuff. It's the same thing. You can find us on Instagram at the Hawks Hangout. Definitely go give us a like and a follow. We're also on YouTube underneath the Basketball Fix, same as Spotify, if that's how you're listening to us as well. Big shout out to those guys for having us on. Also keep an eye out on our website for some very exclusive things coming soon, which I haven't told Corey about.
Oh, I'm excited. But don't forget also there's a little competition going between podcasts. So we want to try and win. We are competitive guys. So make sure you're watching our podcast, follow us, all those things, and we can get some points and we can win this. And let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks. Now, speaking of this competition, if any of you are listening to this right now, send us a DM on Instagram with a hawk emoji and a question for next episode. So we know you guys are actually listening to what we have to say. I know we love to ramble on, but send us a hawk emoji and a question that we'll answer next episode, all right? But for now, that's all from us. We'll catch you on the flip side. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.